This is a Jedi Sense-able solutions video, bringing the truth, wherever it is. From the ancient world, the guardians of long ago, so the return of the Jedi can be complete. The community of million-plus worldwide, have been joined by a new breed of scientists, that are not bound to the academy or institutions as before and are being funded directly. Together they call themselves the Alliance. Allied to bring balance back to the world.
As we speak, I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers to stop the rioting, looting, vandalism, assaults, and the wanton destruction of property. If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy...
Every day they're printing 125 billion. Every single day. And they're going to print more and more money, which means savers are losers, just as I predicted. Your money is going to be worthless in a few weeks.
Fact on fact, drawn from 2 centuries of data and embedded in prose that can suddenly explode like a supernova in the brain. Here's one of its extraordinary insights. We are heading into a future dominated by inherited wealth as capital concentrates in fewer and fewer hands, giving the very rich ever greater power over politics, government, and society. Patrimonial capitalism is the name for it, and it has potentially terrifying consequences for democracy. For those who work for a living, the level of inequality in the U.S., writes Piketty, is probably higher than in any other society at any time in the past, anywhere in the world. Over 3 decades, between 1977 and 2007, 60% of our national income went to the richest 1% of Americans. No wonder this is the one book the 1% doesn't want the other 99% to read.
The World Trade Organization has rarely been in the public eye so much, but it's now a regular feature of Brexit in the UK and US politics. Why does the WTO matter? What happens if Donald Trump pulls the US out of it?
America first. America first.
The WTO has governed international trade since its foundation in 1995. Solving disputes between countries about global trade rules. It has 164 member states. If 2 of these have no free trade agreement with each other, then WTO rules apply when they do business.
I'm delighted to be here with Senator Maria Cantwell of Washington, who shares my strong concern about an issue that I think does not often get the attention that it deserves, but is one of the most important issues facing our democratic society. We cannot live in a vibrant democracy unless people get divergent sources of information and have the opportunity to hear a serious debate about the major issues facing our country. And when you have a smaller and smaller number of large media conglomerates owning and controlling what the American people see, hear, and read, you have a real threat to the kind of democracy that many of us want this country to be. In 1983, 90% of American media was owned by 50 different companies. Today, that 90% of media is now owned and controlled by 6 giant media conglomerates, and they are General Electric, News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS.
These nightmare scenarios could happen because we have become addicted to energy. And like any addict, we don't care how we get our fix. But now the consequences could lead to global disasters. Rapid global industrialization has helped create global prosperity. But it also has addicted the world to fossil fuels, now poisoning and warming our planet. In the next 20 years, we'll need 60% more power to satisfy the new emerging global economies. But what will be the source of that new power? Fossil fuels? Nuclear? Hydroelectric? Each has advantages and risks. Huge trillion-dollar infrastructure built to support it. But the world's oil reserves are fast running out. We may already have passed the peak of production. Our reliance on oil also makes it a potent political tool. One used in the past and most likely in the future.
The Brazilian Space Agency reports seeing deforestation having increased by more than 40% over the last year. Many blame Brazil's president, Jair Bolsonaro, who campaigned on a promise to open the Amazon rainforest up to agriculture and to industry. Unsurprisingly, illegal logging is rife.
Mas eu entendo que não pode. Se eu pegar.
In reality, the trees Mr. Barato was talking about took 100 years to grow.
Ele falou.
What if the Bible is not the Word of God? Needless to say, people were appalled by it, disgusted even. I'm quoting them, okay? They say they've seen me preach, they have seen me cry, they have seen me minister, they have seen me with my hands raised, loving Jesus. And that's true. I was a preacher, I was a minister, I was a dancer, all these things. I was a gospel rapper. But if I can do all these things and you witness my sincerity while I was doing these things, don't you think I must have came across something sincere? Something that's so valid that it shook my belief, even when I didn't want it to. So you say you're going to pray for me. You don't think I've prayed? You don't think I begged this Jesus I grew up believing in the Bible? Okay? I now know that without a shadow of a doubt, the Bible was manufactured for control. I understand this. You don't, and that's okay. So you have a right to be upset because you've never been told these things. I am a teacher. My job is to teach you things you don't already know. Now, what you have to understand is this. If I say something that is outside of your realm of knowledge, okay, look it up. Don't just get mad at me and tell me I'm wrong and tell me, well, I have personal experiences. You don't even know where I'm coming from. Well, I've done all the research you've done. No, you haven't. You may think you have, but until you sit down and have a real conversation with me, you will never know where I'm coming from. So when I tell you I believe in God, I do. But when I tell you I don't believe in the Bible or any character in the Bible, all of them are fake. All of them are manufactured. None of them ever existed historically. Now, understand where I'm coming from, because I'm trying to make this video short. On one platform, you have literature, spiritual literature. This is where you get Jacob, John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, Jesus, Judah, okay, Daniel, Ruth, all these names. Literature. on a historical platform where you're looking to see if things actually existed, if the world truly was ended by water, these things never happened. So what we're reading in this book are not things that correspond with his story.
I gave up between $30,000 and $60,000 a month, and I could go back to porn today and still make that. I could go back to porn and make $20,000 just in 1 week if I wanted to this week, and I don't, because that's how much I don't want my photos on the internet. People treat me as if I am a pedophile. They don't treat me like an ex-sex worker. They treat me like I would somehow be damaging to children.
A simple question, like, how would you like to be treated?
Oh my gosh, I've never thought about that. God, that is so simple. I guess, like, I would, I wish that people would treat me how they would treat a married registered nurse with 2.5 kids in Indiana. That's how I wish people would treat me.
Ever since scientists have been studying the Great Pyramids there at Giza, there has been speculation that they may have been energy generators, some kind of power plants. And of course, the mainstream Egyptologists are saying, oh, these are just simple tombs for pharaohs.
But the Great Pyramid has the precision of a machine, and so when you consider it as a machine, you see that there are certain functions that each part of the pyramid performs. The subterranean chamber is evidence itself, and it has been demonstrated by an engineer by the name of John Cadman, who created a model of the subterranean chamber, and by feeding water in it, the chamber itself seems to cause some very unusual reactions in the pyramid.
The water would rush down the shaft of the Great Pyramid down to the subterranean chamber, which was about 330 feet. It would bypass a valve, and then the valve would slam shut, and it would cause a shock wave to be sent up the Great Pyramid itself, and then it would shoot towards the ceiling that was directly below the King's Chamber.
And has inspired endless speculation as to how it was built and what purpose it served.
Ever since the first studies of the Great Pyramid in Egypt have been made, researchers have been amazed at the mathematical knowledge that is encoded into the Great Pyramid, the measurements that are used in it. Even the placement of the Great Pyramid has aroused great interest among Egyptologists.
The Great Pyramid is aligned to within 3/60ths of a degree of north, a more accurate alignment than any other structure on Earth.
Looking at the architecture of structures from ancient Egypt stimulates a sense of wonder. Clearly, Egyptian monuments rival the grandeur of our most modern buildings today. Yet we are taught to believe that we are the ones with knowledge of high technology, something the ancients could not possibly have had.
As long as we think that the ancients weren't able to use high technology, then we're not looking for it. And yet, the evidence is right in front of our eyes.
We find megalithic sites everywhere around the world. So there's certain things in common that they all seem to know, and we don't know it.
Yeah, a lot of people are trying to figure out why mankind built these structures out of these huge megalithic stones. We don't even know how to move 200, 300-ton stones very well today, let alone 4,000 or 5,000 years ago.
The Egyptological explanation is that it is multiple hieroglyphs overlapping from distant kings' inscriptions. But, like many things in Egypt, the explanation is still debatable. Also noteworthy are strange representations of objects that resemble light bulbs, found in the crypts at Dendera. There was no natural light inside these underground crypts, but we see no soot from torches or oil lamps, the only lights we know the ancients used. Could the ancient Egyptians have had their own source of electrical power? If nothing else, the ancients had to cut, move, and lift massive stone blocks that would challenge our engineers today. What was their secret? We automatically assume that ancient structures are for ceremonial and religious purposes. Maybe the pyramids served a completely different function than previously imagined.
A big part of that is the important work these groups of scientists find. With the many investigations into the many mystery sites across the world, they are bringing the evidence, unlike before, to the people. Where science has ignored these ancient sites with advanced technology from a lost past, a growing rise into our history is changing. With funding from anonymous backers, they are able to discover the latest information. Proving that the history we think is wrong, they are able to bring the facts of that lost age, from which the Guardians kept peace and order. These are the true secrets that can change our way of thinking. This is a new hope. With clarity,